Strong words and some finger pointing from a senior White House advisor suggesting lawmakers need to learn from the gridlock this year and focus on helping the Americans who've suffered as a result. An email from Dan Pfeiffer reads, quote, "While the politics in Washington can be frustrating and change takes time, that is no excuse for inaction. But critics say the White House shouldn't be assigning all the blame to lawmakers on Capitol Hill. Who should get the blame?" Let's talk about it with Chris Plante, radio talk show host who spent a decade covering national security, and Alan Colmes, a Fox News contributor and host on Fox News Radio. Hi. Gentlemen, good to see you both.
Hi.
Hey there. Hey, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Not afraid to say it.
Yeah, proud and happy to say Merry Christmas to both of you. I'll start with you, Alan. What do you make of this? I mean, Dan Pfeiffer is touting the progress they've made. He outlines a number of things and says, you know, don't let the gridlock get you down. We got to do better next year.
Well, why wouldn't he say we do better next year? But the gridlock is what the problem is. That's why, in spite of it, you may talk about the president having low numbers, the lowest of his presidency, but Congress has an 8% approval rating, the lowest ever. And an ORC poll out today shows that, 73% of Americans believe that it's a do-nothing Congress, and about two-thirds of them say it's the worst Congress in their lifetime. So there's certainly a much more opprobrium toward this Congress than there is toward the executive branch of government.
Well, it's interesting, though, that we have polling out both Fox, CNN, others. Right. When you do break down Congress now, Republicans have got the upper hand. I mean, whether that lasts through the midterm election, that's a long time away. In politics, a lifetime. But, Chris, people may hate Congress, but it sounds like they hate the Republicans slightly less.
Well, there was another interesting poll out last week that found that 72% of Americans now believe that big government is the biggest problem facing Americans going forward in the future. So that's something that I think President Obama can take responsibility for, too. As for this email by Dan Pfeiffer, you know, this is classic Washington stuff. The White House continues to try to disassociate itself, with its own record, with President Obama's presidency. They can complain about the gridlock in Washington. President Obama is at the hub of the wheel. He's at the center of this process, and he is, to a very large extent, responsible for this process. He is, according to the Gallup polling organization, the most polarizing president we've had in modern times. He leads from behind. He hasn't gotten anything done but Obamacare. And it's a debacle, at least on the domestic policy front. And his foreign policy is a debacle, too.
How can you say he's got nothing about Obamacare? He's killed more al-Qaeda leaders. He's reformed Wall Street. He saved the auto industry. He saved GM. He got bin Laden. All he's ever done is Obamacare. And by the way, this is actually what Republicans say they want. State control. States have the opportunity to have exchanges. Local control. And the blue states, which have actually followed along, have done much better in terms of registering people. And the red states are doing a disservice to their citizens by not doing what Obamacare calls for, local state control, where they're not participating. It's hurting their own people.
I mean, Alan, come on. You have to admit it's been a pretty rough rollout.
I don't have to admit anything.
Not just the website that we're not just the website. You're not under oath. I haven't sworn you in. But you know, we're not just talking about healthcare.gov. This isn't just the logistics of a website. This is people getting notices in the mail telling them you don't have a policy anymore, even though the president repeatedly and with knowledge of the consequences told them you get to keep your doctor. Period.
The other side of the story is, we heard that you can't keep your doctor for weeks and weeks and weeks. The other side of the story is that as we're approaching the new year, incrementally more and more people are signing up. 2 million signups now, and it's increasing every day. Some states are getting more signups in the last 4 days than they've had in the last 2 months, and that's what's going on.
Let's bring Chris in, and let's keep noting, as we did in the first block of this show, that we're also now at 6 million canceled.
Right, exactly. You know, you can keep claiming these numbers, and the numbers are really questionable in the first place. I mean, who's signed up? How many have gone to Medicaid? How many have actually paid for it? How many have been faked out and think they have insurance but don't? I mean, I wouldn't go around laying claim to impressive numbers here. And as for the president bailing out GM, it cost us $10 billion. We just found out last week.
Created hundreds of thousands of jobs, without which the job numbers would be a lot less, and you'd be complaining that the president wasn't creating jobs. He created jobs.
He's not creating
with
jobs.
The GM
First of all, he's not creating jobs. We've got a record number of people, Alan, that 92 million people that are no longer counted as participating in the workforce.
I don't know where you get that number from, but George Bush was losing 850,000 jobs a month at the end of his presidency.
For 3 months.
Gentlemen.
Yes, Shannon,
I won't speak for Chris, but I'll say I'm suspecting you get those numbers from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, where everybody else gets gets their numbers about employment, unemployment. We have to leave it there. And sadly, we cannot end on a note of agreement. But you did both say Merry Christmas. We're going to count that in the
I'll
win
say it
column.
again. Merry Christmas.
Merry
and a Happy New Year to you both.
Happy New Year.
Thank you very much.
Happy Boxing Day.